here we go. Yes, EA did release another set of Gridiron notes, this time for franchise, so we're going to be doing a quick little deep dive into the franchise Gridiron notes that they released for Madden 22. And real quick, okay, a lot of the comments on the video that blew up about the Madden 22 leaks were about how I'm depressing and I only focus on negatives. To be fair, EA hasn't given us much positives so far. So for this video, I'm going to be doing a pros and cons list for the Gridiron notes that they released for franchise. And the good news for you guys is that there's more pros than cons. The cons do really stick out, but that's not the point here. And another thing people were saying was that it's not fair to be so critical to EA because what they released was the beta. But I'm gonna counter that too, because if you're a company and you're comfortable enough releasing a certain version of the game, then you should be comfortable enough getting criticism for what you released. Now, obviously, there were positives, but yes, I did kind of focus on the negatives. But again, they're not giving us many positives here. For this video, I'm literally just going to be sticking straight to what we got in the Gridiron notes. I'm not going to talk about from hearsay. I'm not going to talk about rumors. This is all what EA themselves have so far given us. And hey, if you like this and you want more Madden content, maybe drop a like. Maybe drop a subscription if you're new here too. To the 100 and almost 50 new people on the channel, welcome. We're going to be doing some more Madden content on this channel now. Again, I'm not going to be going full depth into every single thing they talked about, so I will leave a link in the description to the Gridiron notes if you haven't checked them out yet, if you want to go and read them for yourselves. But basically, the main things I talk about here, we have franchise staff, the weekly strategy, the season engine, the franchise hub, as well as franchise tuning and quality of life improvements. For the most part, most of these pros and cons come from the franchise staff bullet point, as well as the season engine and franchise hub. So I really won't be focusing too much on weekly strategy and franchise tuning and quality of life improvements. So if that's what you're hoping to hear me talk about, you want to hear me talk about the other stuff? Okay, so one of my favorite things that the Gridiron notes do talk about is that there will be 60 plus different coaching talents for the coaching trees for each individual coaching position. I like this because 60 is a lot, and that means you have a huge variation. That means you can, the way that they're doing this is if you take one route on the tree, it locks out the completely other side of the tree, and you're basically not able to use the other coaching talents, coaching abilities. So if you start up a brand new franchise, there is a sense of newness. That's not the word. There's just a fresh sense to the game because you're not having to repeat and use the exact same players and coaching points every single time. It makes every single franchise feel fresh, so you can start a brand new one because, you can do different coaching tiers, you can take a different tree route, and if you want, you can even choose a bunch of the different talents. So there is a sense of freshness to every single franchise you start. You're not just repeating using the same thing every single time. One thing that I really do like is the fact that coaches and coordinators will not have the same impact on your team. Now, basically, what I was expecting is that you hire a coach, you hire the coordinators, and they all basically do the same fucking thing, and coordinators don't actually matter. But EA actually did a pretty good job of making sure that the coordinators and the coaches have their own separate positions like in the NFL, and that they all have their own individual impact. So as it says here, to make each of the 4 staff members feel different, the head coach focuses on overseeing the growth and development of their roster and the staff. An example of a head coach talent would be increased quarterback XP during the weekly strategy. The offensive and defensive coordinators prioritize the on-field product and essentially represent the entirety of the position coaches on each side of the ball. For them, you might be seeing rating boosts, branching decisions like boost defensive tackle block shed by 3 or boost left and right end block shed by 3. I like this because that means the coach itself really has an impact on the growth and development of the team and the coordinators. Meanwhile, the coordinators have an actual on-field, in-game effect on the team, which I think is really important because essentially that's what a head coach does. A head coach helps you to grow your team, and yes, they're essentially the actual play callers, but the coordinators are what give you on-field boosts, and they really they're kind of playing the game plan in an actual NFL game. So I really like how there is those two kind of separate areas. I talked earlier about talent trees and how if you choose one certain upgrade, it'll then lock off the other branch when it comes to the upgrades for the talent trees. I really like this because one thing that I have an issue with is just how linear Madden 21 and the past games have felt. And so it really does create a brand new sense to the game, which I really, really do enjoy. Okay, staff movement. This was like one of the nicest little paragraph breakdowns I think in this entire Gridiron notes that they released, and this is why. One worry that I had with this was that there would be a sense where, cool, you have your coordinators, you can keep them forever, and now the game is repeating itself and is boring. But they actually did a really good counter to this. So first of all, as you guys can see, literally within the first paragraph, it says when you load into a franchise staff for the first time, you have a full coaching staff already assembled for you. That probably means that they're auto-generated, so it's not gonna be the same staff every time. However, if you are unhappy with your coordinators or head coach as an owner, you can fire them and hire someone else from the candidate pool during the season. Now here's where I really like what they're doing. Generated coach will populate out through each year of your franchise, and some may be better than others if you get lucky. When you hire a coach, you earn staff points bonus. So basically what that means is the deeper into the season you get, the more generated and populated the... So basically what that means is the further into the season you get, the more coaching candidates and coordinator candidates you will get, because teams are firing and hiring other coordinators, which means you can hire and fire during the season, and it's not going to be the exact same pool of coaches. There's going to be new people popping up throughout the season. And the other thing that I really like, and this countered what I was talking about when it came to just keeping your same coaches and yada yada yada, it gets boring. It says in the final paragraph, in the offseason you'll be able to hire coaches from an expanded pool, which will feature the ability to hire former head coaches as coordinators and vice versa during the staff moves week only. Basically what this means is if there's a head coach who got fired and they're really good offensively, you can hire them as your offensive coordinator. You can at least put in a bid for them to be your offensive coordinator. But vice versa, that also means that your coordinators or your coach can get bid on by other teams if they want them to be either their head coach or their coordinator. I like that because that means that other teams can essentially steal your coordinators, and it gives you an incentive to want to pay them more. Hopefully it's not a situation where there's no cap on how much you can pay your staff members, and that there is a limit, so that way you do kind of have to make a decision of do I pay this guy more, do I pay this guy less. That I hope that that's the case. We'll see what happens. Again, that they don't talk about that here, so I'm not gonna get into that. That's just a hope and a pray I can have. So that's it for staff. I didn't really have any cons for it because it looks like EA really is trying here, and they're actually going pretty damn in depth when it comes to coaching trees and staff in general. So I gave them benefit of the doubt, and I really didn't go into the cons too much. And also, you guys called me a Debbie Downer, so fine. We're gonna look at the upside here. More positives. This comes more to the season engine and the engine in general when it comes to simulating through a season in franchise, and this is that player fatigue will have more impact, meaning depth of your team is important because your players are not going to be able to perform at 100% every single game. Your players are going to progressively get more tired through this season, which means there's probably going to be an injury, which means you need to have a good backup running back or a good backup wide receiver or a somewhat good backup quarterback based on how old your quarterback is, because they do talk about the fact that age is a factor. I like that. It's a small thing, but I think it means a lot because it really does go into building an entire team. One thing that I like that they highlighted in the Gridiron notes was the draft, which is one of the we know it's one of the worst things that Madden has. But they highlight the fact that through rounds 1 and 3, every single player within those first 3 rounds has a better chance of being a better player, because that's how it is in the NFL. If you're drafted in the first, second, or third round, you're going to have a really good chance of being a pretty damn good player in comparison to 4, 5, 6, 7. And they even say the picks 1 through 10 are going to have very good essential boom potential when it comes to the NFL, and they're going to have a very high progression ceiling. I like this because essentially in the years past, if you're the first 15 picks, you're probably gonna be good, but after that, you're not gonna reach an 80 overall. I don't think I've ever drafted someone in the second or third round and have them reach an 80 overall. Sometimes they get up to 77, 78, but it's really low likely. It's very unlikely for that to happen. And then my final pro is it just talking about the UI. I think it looks really good in my opinion. Obviously, I haven't had hands-on because I don't have a beta code for it, but I really do like the way it looks, and it looks like they are adding in so much. It's very in-depth, and it has a lot more options for customization. We're gonna get into that in a second, but roster customization, franchise customization, stuff like that, staff customization. I really like that. It looks like they're going pretty damn in depth with that. Now, let's get into the cons. One thing that they talk about in this article is that with the first update after launch is when a lot of this stuff is gonna be implemented. So that means this notes right here probably not gonna be in the game at launch, which is why are you putting out an unfinished game then? Either push the release date back, or don't tell us that you're gonna give us this stuff and then not give us that stuff until after the launch. For people who love to play franchise, essentially, there's no point to start, especially if you want to play an elongated franchise for multiple years. There's no point to start that because a lot of the features that they're talking about in these notes are not even going to be implemented until the first title update, which is usually a couple weeks after launch. So for those of you that really want to get into franchise, I would not recommend really starting anything unless you just want to do a 1-season type of deal. I wouldn't recommend doing a franchise until the first title update comes out. Next con, which is actually something they highlighted here, which was modular cinematics. It looks like garbage. They released screenshots and I was like, why'd you release screenshots? This is you could have not released screenshots and I would have been more excited, but when I saw what you guys gave us, what are these graphics? This is a complaint I got in my last video. People are like, oh, it's not the next gen. No, it is next gen. Everything that they only have beta codes for next gen. They're only releasing content for next gen because they need to promote the next gen consoles more. So this is next gen graphics. It looks like iPhone. It looks like an iPhone graphic. I don't even want to get into the body types and how the players don't even really fit, their heads don't work and coaches look really just oddly smooth. I don't want to get into it. I'm just talking about the fact that they highlighted it here and it doesn't look good. I also mentioned this a couple minutes ago, but it also looks like there's not going to be any team customization, and the relocation are going to be the exact same relocation cities. They don't mention anywhere in here that we can customize our team, whether it be uniforms, whether it be, you know, changing the logo, whether it be customizing the stadium or anything like that. And honestly, when I was going through the UI images that they released, I didn't see anything there either. So if you guys are like me and you really like building a custom team and, you know, doing stuff like that, it's probably not going to happen this year, and our best hope is Madden 23, which sucks ass. And then lastly, this is nitpicky. I know this is nitpicky, okay? But they released the picture for the draft that I was talking about earlier and how more in-depth the drafts round 1 through 3 are. But what the picture they released, look at the faces. This makes me worried. Not just for creating players in general, like for rosters and stuff like that and creating draft classes, but for creating the player for face of the franchise. Because these faces look exactly the same. And I'm not just talking about next gen, because next gen and pre-gen literally have the exact same graphics, it looks like, because these look like the pre-gen auto-generated faces. Which means you probably don't have that great customization for your face of the franchise player, which sucks because we are already like 7 years past when other franchises have included face scanning into their games, but EA is so fucking far behind. So there's my pros and cons list. There you go. I had like 4 cons, like 10 pros. So we're like 40% negative here. If you guys are curious about other things that the Gridiron Notes do talk about, like I said multiple times, there is a link in the description so you guys can go read that for yourself. Again, it's pretty damn in-depth and a pretty long article, so they are obviously trying to make changes. Overall, I do think the dev team for franchise is trying their best, but they're just limited by what EA is allowing them to and not to do, because like I was talking about with customization, I'm sure the franchise dev team would love to add that in. We can't shit on the dev team for this. This overall comes down to the head of who's running the dev teams for Madden. The dev teams are just being told what to do. They don't get to make the final decisions, so don't shit on them. If anything, shit on EA as a company. But sticking with the whole kind of theme of this video, there are a lot of positives here, so we're going to look at those. I will have a small video coming out either tomorrow or the day after talking about MUT, because they're going to be releasing some Gridiron Notes for MUT as well, so I'm going to be doing a deep dive into that. So make sure you guys are sticking around, keeping a lookout for that video. But other than that, that's it for this. If you guys want, you guys can check out the Madden 22 leaks I talked about, as well as the Madden 22 concept art that I made, or if you really want to go back, you can go look at my Madden 21 concept art or my Madden 21 review, which has a lot of the ideas that I kind of pushed over into the ideas I'd love to see in Madden 22 or Madden 23 or just Maddens in the future. But other than that, I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I'm just gonna end it here. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time.